Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
good morning, one and all. Today we are going to learn about authentication service security. This is a 10 point of this second chapter. In this chapter, we are going to learn about authentication methods, which are the security services are there. Using that services, we are going to authenticate users. So modern computer system must be able to reliably identify the user. Authentication is there means we have to identify the user who are using the services. So modern computer system must be able to reliably identify the user who is making the request in order to provide service to many users. So who is going to make that service available? First we will check that user with the authentication service, whether he is the user who is permitted to access the particular services. Then and then only that particular user will get the access. So authentication mechanism in between service and user. So these mechanism or these security services will check the user is valid or not, and after that he will grant the services. Password based authentication is not suited for usage on the computer network since it is easy for eavesdropper to impersonate the user. So now password based authentication is not useful. If somebody knows your password, they can easily enter into your account. That's why they have changed the authentication mechanism. They have added various mechanism. For example, device security is there. Your biometric will be there for the device security, or for login also. For two-factor authentication, we are asking for OTP. So we have to make that services strong. So only password based authentication is not useful at this stage. In mobile computing, there are two types of security: device security and network security. So, what is device security? Authentication between the device and the base station, that is your server. Authentication between the device and base station or web server is required for secure network access. If you if you want secure network access, then there is a authentication between your device. Now you will check your computer. They are asking for that particular computer also. Authentication. OTP will be there. Whether you are the same user or not. From anywhere, other user can access your Gmail. But they are asking you whether you are the same user. They will send you the OTP and they will confirm this device. Yes, this device is used by you only. Next time, whenever you will change the device, that time it will give you message. Somebody has logged in using this device, so you will come to know that means either you are using that device or somebody else is using, you will get that message. So here device security, for this, under this device and your web server, there is a authentication between these two for the secure network access. This is done to ensure that only authenticated devices are allowed to connect to the network in order to access the desired services. Only these devices which are authenticated to access that services are able to access it. No malicious code can mimic the service provider in order to fool the device into doing something it is not supposed to do. That means malicious code is not going to run here if your device is authenticated, that using that device only you are going to access, so nobody else is going to come into that picture. As a result, network play an important role in the security of mobile devices. Then second is the network devices, and these are the common attacks for the mobile devices via wireless network, such as DOS attack, denial of service attack, traffic analysis, eavesdropping, man in the middle attack, and session hijacking. So these are the common attacks using mobile devices. So next type is network security. In this network security, wireless application protocol, that is WAPs or VPNs, virtual private network, MAC address filtering, and the creation of 802 dot, this is XXX, that is the version of the standard 802, are all used as a security measures in this scenario. For the network security, we are using all these for the security measures. The authentication services job is to get information from an authenticated party. So this is the job of authentication services, to get the information from the authenticating party, that user. You will get the information, user ID and password, that is the information. So that part you will get from the user, and compare it to the defined identity repository using the authentication module given. So which module you are using for authenticating user, using that module we are going to identify that particular person. On which we are going to identify, we have a identity repository, the data, user ID and password data we are having with us. With this data we will check the user data and authenticate the user by using the authentication module. Which module you are using, using that module you are going to authenticate the user. The user session is activated after successful authentication and may be validated across all web application in a single sign-on context. Single sign-on context is there, so you will be validated for each and every web application, whether you are that user or not. It will ask you for OTP or password also. So when you will be successfully logged in after authentication is successful. Your authentication is successful means your session is activated. When a user or program tries to access a protected resource, one or more authentication module will ask for the credential. If you are asking protected resource, then they will ask you something. Your credential, your password, OTP will be there. The user or application must be granted access to the resource depending on the credential given. A company employee wishes to search up a colleague phone number from the user perspective. He is the user here now, the colleague of the employee. He is searching phone number of colleague. But here he is searching that phone number from the user's perspective. He want to use that number. The employee accesses the company's online phone book via browser. If it is company's phone book, means they have provided some security over there, means anybody cannot use that phone book, only authorized person can use that phone book. So here employee want to access that company online phone book via browser. The employee enters username and password. He is the employee, so he is having username and password to access this phone book. So employee will enter username and password to use the phone book service. The user's input is compared to data saved in the appropriate identity repository by OpenSSO Enterprise. Here they are using this OpenSSO Enterprise to check employee user ID and password, whether the authenticated user is there or not. So various modules, various services they are using for authenticating employee or users. So here they are using OpenSSO Enterprise repository. The user's identity is authenticated if OpenSSO Enterprise detects a match for the username and given password. So if there is a match, he is the valid user, he is allowed to use the phone book. If not match is found, then he is not allowed to access that phone book. Then we will see authentication types. OpenSSO Enterprise looks for the information about where to redirect the user after granting or denying access to the resource. When the person will granted, after that grant, where to redirect that user, that part will look under this OpenSSO Enterprise. It will look for the information where to redirect the user after granting or denying the access to the resource. When looking for this information, a certain order of priority is employed. Priority will be mentioned there, where to redirect that user. The sequence is determined by the type of authentication used. Various authentication types are used here. On the basis of that type, which authentication type is used, the OpenSSO enterprise will redirect that user for that particular information. The sequence is determined by the type of authentication used and whether the user was permitted or denied access to the protected resource. A number of authentication types are automatically configured when install OpenSSO Enterprise. So when you will install this OpenSSO Enterprise into your organization, various types of authentication they have given, automatically that will be configured. So that mechanism will check the user and where to redirect that user, that will be decided. So first is the realm based authentication. The user logs into realm and subrealm that has been configured. I will show you one diagram. 1 minute. So where is that realm, you will come to know. Here, this one. This is your here are you end user is here. He will use the devices, web browser and mobile devices there. Then he will use some application to enter into the organization, and here is the realm. So this realm will decide which methodology they have to use to authenticate user, and after that information he will decide where to redirect that user. So this is the realm. I will leave you in 1 minute. Wait a minute. So first authentication method is a realm based authentication method. So this is the method, realm based authentication. The user logs in the realm or sub realm that has been configured. This is configured into that open SSO. This sort of authentication is the same as the organized based authentication. In the realm mode, the query parameter org and realm would both result in realm based authentication, and the legacy mode and organization based authentication. So here a realm is used for authentication of user. Then role based authentication, here is the on the basis of role you are going to authenticate and you will get the access. So within the realm or sub realm, a user authenticates to the configured role for which configuration he is authenticating. On the basis of that, he will get the menus. For example, on your online admission system, you will not get all the menus. Which are menus required for you? Only that menus are visible to you. So what is your role? Only you have to fill the admission form. So that part will be open for you. So configure based, you will get the access. The role must be held by the user. The AM SDK data store schema plugs in the only one that support role based authentication. So AM SDK data store schema is there, plugin is there. That is the only one that support role based authentication. So for this reason, this plugin is important. AM SDK data store schema. This data store might have been built manually or could have originated from existing Sun Java system. Role-based authentication will not supported if a user installs OpenSSO Enterprise with any other user data store. If you are using any other user data store, then it will not support. By default, it will with that OpenSSO. Don't use any other data source. You have to use this AM SDK data store. Next is service-based authentication on the basis of service. What service you are allowed to access, only that service is provided to you. User logs into the realm of sub-realm to access specific service or application. User-based authentication, user ID password you will enter and you will get the access. And for which module, that will be given to you. Only that service will be provided to you. User based authentication. Authentication level based authentication, by providing each authentication module with an authentication level, an administrator can specify the security level. So what security level we have to provide, that based on the authentication level. So level wise security is provided. Module based authentication is there, allow user to choose module. Complete application is not given, only module is provided to you. For example, your admission module. Hmm, that is only single module that is provided to you. Only that module access you will get. Organized based authentication, on organization or sub organization authenticated by the user. So user is there to authenticate the organization. Organization will provide user ID, password, or any other biometric things will be there. So on the basis of that, authentication is there. So we will stop here only. You are getting continuous message. So this is about authentication service security.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Leave the
Ma'am.
meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
You can join.
Ma'am.
Okay.